In 2007, I started teaching at the Tennessee Prison for Women for Lipscomb University. Lipscomb started offering college classes out at the women's prison, and they asked me to teach judicial process. And so I started meeting these women and getting to know them personally, and I started seeing their potential. And I started feeling conflict between my work life and this role that I was playing for Lipscomb at the women's prison. And it all came to a head when one of the students in my class, whose name is Centoya Brown, it turns out that I had been the prosecutor in her case. And we didn't find that out. I didn't figure that out until about halfway through the semester when I received the opinion of the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals affirming her conviction and life sentence. She was 16 years old when she took a man's life. And she was tried as an adult, and she was sentenced to life in prison. And I, on appeal, argued that that was exactly what needed to happen in that case under the law. And I won, and I received a copy of the opinion. And I knew that the next time we had class, she would have the opinion in her hands as well. And so I had to go to her and apologize for the role that I had played months and I think a year or so beforehand. And she was devastated because she and I had gotten to know each other personally. And the Centoya that I knew from class, who was very bright and very articulate and cared a lot about the studies she was doing and was well read, I couldn't reconcile that with the person who had committed this crime, just like she couldn't reconcile the person that she knew me to be in class with the person who had argued that she needed to spend the rest of her life in prison. And so what ultimately ended up happening is we had to step outside of those roles that we played in the system and got to know each other on a more personal level. And at that point, I was no longer able to hold in tension my work life and the friendships that I had made out at the Tennessee Prison for Women. It was more than I could really do. And so I think that from the prosecutor's side of things, you have to understand that the discretion that they have can cause them, just as much tension as it might cause for the defendant. And I think that I have found my relationships with the people, because all that I knew about Centoya or anybody else was the worst thing that she had ever done. I didn't know all the other bad things that had happened to her that led up to that. As a prosecutor, I had very limited information about Centoya. I did not know that at 16 years old, for the 2 weeks prior to her crime, she had been raped multiple times, once at knife point. I didn't know that she was strung out on drugs. I didn't know that the lady that gave birth to her was an alcoholic and addicted to crack cocaine and just abandoned her at 2 years old. I didn't know her human context when I made these arguments about her. Once I found that out, I thought, well, how in the world could I have sat in judgment on this person and made these legal arguments about what needs to happen in this person's life? In the same way, Centoya had demonized me as a prosecutor. And she couldn't understand how I was a human, with a decent heart as well. And so I think that one of the challenges that we face as we move forward, as we think about restorative or transformative justice, as we think about what we're going to do for our kids, is to think about personal relationships. I don't think that I would have been changed. I don't think I would have experienced inner tension had I not had personal relationships with people like Centoya. And so I think that it's going to be crucial for us to get to know people on a personal level and hear their stories and hear their human context. And only then can we reach, some understanding.